The sun was dipping low over Lake Falcrest, turning the still water into a mirror of molten gold. At the far edge of the lake, a man named DeShawn Carter stood on his porch, watching the ripples. It had taken him 10 years of double shifts, skipped vacations, and endless patience to build this home. A quiet ranch by the water, where peace was finally his. But that peace was about to be tested, because 3 men were about to drive up his long gravel road, wearing fake security vests, claiming to represent the neighborhood HOA, an HOA DeShawn had never even joined. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. DeShawn had seen them earlier that week, the same SUV circling the cul-de-sac, windows tinted, lingering too long near his gate. He'd brushed it off. People had questions, sure. He was the only black homeowner in a newly developed lakeside community, full of retirees and executives. But he'd learned to ignore the looks, the whispers. That Friday evening, however, ignoring wasn't an option. The SUV rolled up his driveway, kicking up dust. 3 men stepped out, their shirts marked security in bold white letters, badges gleaming faintly in the setting sun. "Evening," DeShawn said calmly, wiping his hands on a rag. "Can I help you?" The man in front, short, stocky, with mirrored sunglasses, smiled in a way that didn't reach his eyes. "We're with the HOA Security Committee, sir. We've had some reports about noise, possible violations, and suspicious activity around this property." DeShawn raised an eyebrow. "That's funny," he said, his tone measured. "This property isn't part of your HOA." The second man stepped forward. "We'll be the judge of that. Need to take a look around." DeShawn's jaw tightened. "You got a warrant?" The leader smirked. "Don't need one, sir. We're here to enforce neighborhood standards." But DeShawn could see it now, the crooked patches. The off-brand radios, the way one man's hand hovered just a little too close to his waistband. These weren't officers. These weren't even security guards. They were pretenders. Trespassers hiding behind false authority. For a moment, the air between them thickened. The lake was silent. Cicadas hushed. Even the wind seemed to pause. Then DeShawn spoke quietly. "Boys, you've got exactly 10 seconds to get off my land." The leader laughed, glancing at his crew. "Or what? You'll call the cops? The time they get here will be long gone." DeShawn didn't move. He just turned and stepped back onto his porch. That's when they made their mistake. One of them reached for his arm. DeShawn pivoted, eyes sharp as lightning. "Don't touch me." But the man shoved him back. "You don't give orders here." Something inside DeShawn snapped, not with rage but with precision. The same kind of focus he'd carried through 12 years of minor league baseball, where reflex and control meant everything. He reached for the wooden bat leaning by his porch door, his late father's, polished smooth from years of use. He lifted it once, testing its balance in his grip. "Last warning," he said quietly. The shorter man sneered. "Big stick, tough guy. You really gonna heed and finish?"
Ice.
The swing came fast, silent, and exact. The bat struck the man's shin with a crack that sent him to his knees, gasping. Before the second could react, DeShawn spun one clean strike to the shoulder, knocking the radio from his hand. The third reached for his fake badge, fumbling backward, shouting, "You're assaulting security." But the word security died in his throat as the badge clattered. To the ground, a cheap plastic prop, the commotion drew attention. Porch lights flicked on across the lakefront, curtains parted. A few neighbors stepped out, whispering. "What's going on over there?" Within minutes, real sirens echoed in the distance. Someone must have called the sheriff. DeShawn stood still, breathing hard, the bat lowered, but steady. The 3 men crawled toward their SUV, limping and cursing. One of them shouted, "You'll regret this." "Maybe," DeShawn said, voice calm again. "But you'll remember it." The deputies arrived moments later, and the truth unfolded quickly. The badges were fake. Security shirts were ordered online. Men were part of a local group running a scam targeting new homeowners, intimidating them into paying bogus fees. But this time, they picked the wrong man. As the handcuffs clicked shut, the sheriff, a gray-haired woman with a quiet authority, turned to DeShawn. "You handled that cleaner than some of my deputies," she said, almost smiling. DeShawn nodded, his hands still shaking slightly. "Didn't want trouble," he murmured. "Just wanted peace." The next day, the story spread across the community. At first, whispers, then respect. Neighbors came by, some embarrassed for staying silent so long, others just wanting to shake his hand. And when the HOA president himself arrived, stammering apologies about a misunderstanding, DeShawn simply looked him in the eye. "Understand this," he said. "I worked too hard for this home to be treated like an intruder in it." Weeks later, DeShawn hosted a barbecue by the lake, open to everyone, even those who'd once looked away. Children played, laughter filled the air, and the sound of bats striking baseballs echoed through the yard. One of the older neighbors asked, "You really think you scared those guys straight?" DeShawn chuckled. "I didn't swing to scare," he said. "I swung to stand." And for the first time since moving there, the lake felt like it belonged to everyone, not just the loudest voices, but the ones who refused to back down. Because respect isn't handed out, it's earned and sometimes defended. And when justice finally swings back, it doesn't whisper, cracks. If this story made your heart race, hit subscribe and share it. Because some stories remind us that courage isn't about fighting. It's about knowing when to stand tall. Tell me in the comments, would you have done what DeShawn did?